Record and start by saying to everyone who is watching and listening, welcome, good evening, and thank you for joining us. I am Barb Collura, and I will introduce my guest here in a minute. We had a lot of people register for tonight's event, so we're super excited to have you all here. Many people joining tonight are current board members. Some of them are former board members, former volunteers, current volunteers. We also have supporters of Resolve who philanthropically donate to Resolve. We also have many corporate partners listening in tonight, and of course our amazing volunteers and advocates. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited to have you. This has been a very special year for Resolve, and quite honestly, we haven't been able to celebrate as much as we had wanted to. There's been a lot of very serious issues facing our community, and we've had to really put those issues first. But tonight, we want to make this very, very special. This is our 50th year as an incorporated 501c3 nonprofit organization. And over those 50 years, we've impacted millions of lives, improving access to all family building options for everyone, educating the public about our issues, and providing free emotional support. That emotional support is the part of our mission that actually started Resolve. So joining me tonight is the woman that started it all. Please welcome our visionary founder and friend, Barbara Eck, who is coming to us from her home in North Carolina. Barbara, welcome.
Thank you so much. And I'm so delighted to be joining this webinar. This is wonderful. Thank you so much.
How are you tonight, by the way? How are you?
I'm feeling great, yes.
So here we have Barb Collura and Barbara Eck. So I'm going to go by Barb and you're going to go by Barbara. But this is such an important night for us, and I'm so honored to be here. In fact, I've had the privilege of meeting you in person, and you and I have talked many times over the years on the phone. In fact, you came to our Night of Hope Gala for our 40th anniversary. And I remember you were up on stage, and some of those photos were from that amazing event. And here we are 50 years since you incorporated Resolve in 1974. I'm just looking forward to tonight. You and I are going to have a conversation, and if we have time at the end, we might open up for some questions. But I just can't thank you enough for being here tonight. So everybody wants to know, first and foremost, what motivated you to start Resolve?
Well, I have to give a little background before I get into the beginnings of Resolve. I became an infertile woman, which certainly was my motivation. I was married to my husband and we lived in Boston. We practiced birth control like many couples, assuming fertility for several years while we did our graduate work, and I was teaching nursing. And then when we started to try to have a family, we were very surprised to find that nothing happened in the first year. In the second year, we achieved a pregnancy that was lost after 2 months. We then proceeded to have almost every test imaginable and some attempts at treatment, and none of it was successful. And we were informed that we would never be able to bear children. This was a very isolating and very depressing and heartbreaking time for us emotionally. I did not know any other person who was infertile. There was no one I felt I could talk to. There also was very little written at that time nothing to read to comfort myself or to educate myself about what was going on. And also, there seemed to be a stigma or a shame surrounding infertility. True, it's very personal, but I did not understand why stigma and shame should be attached. And all of that bothered me and troubled me dearly. It was also very hard on my marriage. Well, we resolved our family building by adopting 3 beautiful children. From 1971 to 1975, we brought in 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. They are all biracial. One had special needs, and one came from Vietnam, from the war. He was a war orphan. And they are beautiful children, and I am just so proud of them even today. So that was the background. And during this time, I kept thinking, in my reading, I had seen that we were 10% of the population of childbearing age, approximately, people with infertility. But why was there no organization helping us? Why was there no support? So I guess I decided maybe we should start it. And so it started in Boston. I did a seminar in the summer of 1973 for an adoption the support group called the Open Door Society. And they asked me to lead a panel on infertility. And I thought, well, nobody's going to come. And I was very wrong. The whole room was full of people. And we passed around a sign-up sheet for further contact. And very many people wanted to stay in touch.
Wow.
That was the basis of the first support group, which I led that fall. And I began what I would call a hotline on my kitchen phone to counsel people who were having problems with infertility, because I am a nurse and a health educator, and I figured maybe I could help people a little bit and offer support. So that's the beginnings. We were all volunteers in the beginning, and as I say, we worked out with my home phone on off my kitchen table. But eventually we moved to an office, and we had enough funding that we were able to afford a small office and some staff, paid staff. So it built slowly over time. The successful things that were going on, well, the mission that we decided was ours was to offer education, support, and advocacy to the target population of infertile people.
Right.
And it's simple, and I am so happy. And I think one reason that Resolve is still around today is that mission has stayed on track, and that target population is still being served.
I just want to share too that you've just mentioned your kitchen table, and we've embraced the fact that you started this organization around your kitchen table. We talk about that all the time. In fact, we had you sitting at like a kitchen table at our 40th anniversary. I don't know if you remember that, and people were coming up and sitting down with you. The fact that you opened your home to people and did that on your home phone. So I just have to say, we love your kitchen table.
Well, we were fortunate that eventually we could get out to a little office, and this was, again, we're still in Boston, and we were fortunate in I believe it was 1975 that we got a government grant to assist with educating family planning, federally funded family planning services around the country. They were incorporating infertility into family planning services. This is called Title 10. And myself and several of my staff people went around the country and trained the trainers
Wow.
about the problem of infertility and the family building options available. It was really a tough sell because a lot of these people had only ever seen unwanted pregnancies.
Mm.
And but I must say, by the end of our trainings, we had most of them in tears because we had moved them with our stories and the heartbreak and the emotion involved in infertility, and we made believers out of them.
Wow. Wow. Well, can I ask, so one of the things that we talk a lot about at Resolve is, and that we really care deeply about, is inspiring people to act. How did people advocate and share their personal stories in the 1970s?
Well, it wasn't easy, but I think there was a lot more secrecy, and I said again, the stigma and the unwarranted shame that seemed to be around this subject was certainly there. But I was a very open person, and I said, we've done nothing wrong. We have a problem. We have a medical problem. We need advocacy and we need support. And the only way we're going to get the public to understand us and to help us is to tell our truth. We need to tell our truth. And so we began to do media work and also through publications. That was the other way. I had articles, I wrote articles for medical journals, for nursing journals, and for the Child Welfare Magazine, which is a social work journal. So we were reaching out to professionals to educate them. And through the media, telling our stories,
Wow.
we began to be visible. And we were, even though it's personal, we were always willing to show our faces. I was asked one time if we wanted to be shot in from the rear, in silhouette. I said no.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I said no. We show our faces and we give our names and we tell our truth.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that was really important.
One of the things that I want you to share with our listeners, you and I connected recently, and you told me a story about some government hearings concerning IVF that you participated in, and I was fascinated. Can you share that background and share that with our audience about those hearings and what was going on and what you did?
Yes, happily. In the late 1970s was the first we heard about the technology called in vitro fertilization, and several babies had already been born of this technique. And in this country, they decided to do hearings in 6 regions of the country, and they sent the head of HEW at that time, Joseph Califano. This was under I believe, the Carter administration, around to those 6 regions to hear from people about why IVF should be allowed.
Wow.
I took 5 couples to Faneuil Hall in Boston, and we spoke our truth, as I say. And brave and courageous people did the same in the other regions. And
Wow.
as a result, even though he was quite reluctant, Califano voted eventually to allow this procedure as a legal, technology. So that opened the doors for people who were willing to use that technology.
Can we just pause for a moment? Because I'm going to have like a moment here. You're telling me that he went around the country in the late 1970s and people had to come forward and, as you have so proudly said, speak their truth. And that allowed IVF to be practiced here in the United States, is what I'm hearing, because this was this was the predecessor to HHS.
Mm-hmm.
And what would have happened had you not shown up, or nobody had shown up in those 6 regional meetings? What would have happened?
Well, I don't know that it would have been approved, and we don't know what would have happened, but fortunately, and that speaks to why we need to act ourselves and give our personal stories, because until people understand the pain, the heartbreak, the difficulty of infertility, um, they simply don't know it exists. And then also all the family building options which are out there, many of those are difficult. And so to learn how to negotiate all of that and to have emotional support the whole way, that's so important. You know, I was thinking just now at the Democratic convention, Tim Walz spoke of his own personal infertility experience.
Mhm.
That would have been unheard of back in the 70s. And it was so touching, and so many people have commented on that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
he put it on the map for us. He did a good thing for us.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. Anyone sharing their story, which brings us to some things that have happened this year. I know you follow obviously the news and you follow our activities. I know you have reached out at various times and given me little notes of support. I have to ask you though, what did you think when the Alabama Supreme Court ruling came out this past February?
Well, I was absolutely floored. I couldn't believe it. It seems like the gains of reproductive choice for the last 50 years are suddenly all under attack again, and certainly IVF. Um, I think to think that a conceptus, a little ball of cells in a petri dish or a test tube, should be granted full rights of personhood like a living, breathing adult, it just blows my mind. I can't understand how that could be possible. And certainly, I think that legislation will be overturned. Um, it complicates IVF completely.
Hmm.
And I personally trust people who are using this technology to manage their own embryos that they have created and to make best decisions for how they are used.
Well, we agree with you, and we need people advocating just that, to see this change happen that we want to have happen. So, Barbara, what kind of surprises you most about today's national conversation around IVF and family building?
Well, I do think there's more candor, and I think I like that. And you know, I wouldn't say we were in the closet, but we were just unknown back in the 70s, and certainly in the years I talked with my parents back in the days when they were young. Nobody talked about infertility. So it's come a long way, but it still needs more exposure. It certainly still needs education, advocacy, and support. And it's amazing to me that at the time I needed it, that nothing existed
Yeah,
that would help. I did use personal therapy. I'm a person who researches things, and so I did my own research and I educated myself. I found a lot of technical medical papers, but as far as something for the average person to read, like a library book,
yeah,
there just wasn't such a thing. So one of the really important things we did at Resolve in the early days was generate fact sheets on aspects of infertility and family building. And in 1977, I wrote a book, and that was published to trade and text markets. Um, and I subsequently did a revision a few years later because all the new technology came along. So that book brought us to a much wider exposure in the country, and we began getting calls and emails. Well, we weren't getting emails yet. That was before the web.
You were probably getting mail. You were probably getting mail.
Mail
There you
from
go.
people who wanted services like support groups and a hotline in their state and in their area.
Well,
So
that started the whole chapter structure too, didn't it? When
that did.
you had people in other states who said, "Wait a minute, how do we do a hotline in our state?"
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. I have to say when I was receiving Resolve services, those fact sheets still existed, and you were um, putting those requests in, and they were mailing those out to you, and they were incredibly helpful. So they, of course, I'm sure had been updated, but it's still the concept of that really clear factual information was really amazing, which you started. So Barbara, what are you most proud of concerning Resolve and our community?
I am so proud that we're having a 50th anniversary. And I have to credit all the leaders who came after me. I was there for the first approximately 10 years. But the strong leadership that continued to be true to the mission. The mission has never changed. We're still offering education, advocacy, and support. Our target population is still infertile people. There have been lots of developments in medical technology and also in family building, which we embrace as we learn about it and as we understand it. And I am so proud that Resolve has grown and has stayed true to the mission. And I have to congratulate you on 20 years. You're coming up on 20 years as president and CEO of Resolve. And that's just a wonderful record. And your strong leadership has been so important.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That means so much coming from you. What are you doing now? Tell us what you're up to today.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a quick history of what I did after Resolve, and then I'll tell you about now. After I left Boston in 1985 and moved to Cape Cod, and I'm proud of a couple of the things I accomplished there. I was still always looking, I guess, to help people. I got on the Board of Health in the town I lived in, and I wrote the first smoking regulations for that town,
Wow.
and it was very controversial. I also helped start the first AIDS partnership in that town. And if you remember the early 80s and the mid 80s, that was a terrible time. And this terrible new disease, HIV and AIDS, was killing people right and left. And we had a lot of people with this problem on Cape Cod. Fortunately, of course, treatments, there's no cure, but treatments that are very effective have come along and changed that picture for the better. But that was very important work for me. I also was a hospice volunteer for many years of my life. I
Oh, wow.
love hospice work. I really believe in end of life care. And so that's another mission that I continue to love and work in. Then when I retired here 15 years ago, I left active nursing and paid work. I got very involved in volunteer work in this community, and I'm very active in my church. I am a Unitarian Universalist. I head up the pastoral team, which we make calls on people who are in the hospital or who are perhaps homebound or lonely and in difficult situations, we send cards, we make calls. I love that work, that
Wow.
pastoral work.
Wow.
And so that's what I'm doing currently.
It's very clear you are a doer and you're somebody who cares deeply about others. And we're just so grateful. I'm sure this happens to you even today. Somebody comes and finds out what you've done, and they may say to you, "Oh my goodness, I know somebody who's struggling right now to build their family." What advice do you have for them today?
Well, it's very easy to get obsolete in infertility, all the technology and advances, and also just in nursing. I have found as soon as you stop studying it and doing it, you become obsolete. But I help people to the best I can, but I usually refer them to the sources that can help them, and certainly to resolve if it's about infertility.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I continued to run support groups even after I left Resolve. And in total, I have run 22 support groups
Oh my
for
God.
Resolve over the
Okay,
years.
I know we have some support group hosts who are amazing on the call, but wow, wow, that's unbelievable. Barbara, we're not done yet. I want to keep you on, but I want to just see, do you have anything you'd like to share or say that I haven't already asked you about?
Well, I'm just so proud of this 50th anniversary. And that I have to say, I was going to say this at the outset. That makes me 82.
Never supposed to tell your age.
I
No,
am
nobody
fortunate.
about that. You
I
first.
am fortunate.
I know this isn't important, but I'm going to say it anyway. You look amazing and look at how active you are. We all could just hope that we are like you when we are 82 and have such a rich life to look back on, and all the people you've impacted. And I have to say this, and I don't want to get too emotional, but you and I are very connected. Not only do we have the same name, and not only do we both work at Resolve, but there is a thread that connects us both. And it started when you started Resolve, because you inspired all these other people to volunteer and to help support Resolve financially and help do support groups and education. And then guess what? Those people inspired other people, right? And so on and so on. Now we're in the 1990s, the late 1990s, and that's when I needed Resolve. I live in the Washington, D.C. area, not in Boston. And lo and behold, I found this huge, amazing community of people through Resolve, professionals and volunteers, some who've been volunteering at that point for 10 years. Who knows? They may have met you or been inspired by something you had done. And they helped me and they helped my husband. And they were there when we needed that help and that support. So now here I am. I've been a part of Resolve for more than 20 years. I was a volunteer, and then I joined the staff, and I've had the privilege of making an impact on hopefully people's lives as well. But it all started with you. And anybody who is listening, who has been impacted by our organization, you are all connected in some way to Barbara Eck. You took a stand on something that was impacting you personally, and you created this ripple effect that has spanned decades. And you're just a treasure to us, and we are so grateful for you. And it takes a lot to start an organization, but it also took a lot for you to recognize that there are others who could lead that organization. And you allowed that, and look, I'm crying. You allowed that to happen. And we are so grateful to you. We are going to have time for some questions. So before I get to that, though, I'm going to share my screen because I want to tell everybody about something that is incredibly exciting here at Resolve that we are starting right now, here tonight. And I am hoping all of you are going to be a part of this and be like Barbara and be an inspiration to others as well. So everybody on this call has a superpower, and it's your story, and it's your love for Resolve and our community and our mission. And I hope that you have been inspired by listening to Barbara Eck, our founder, hearing about where we've been and also where we're going. I am so excited to announce that we're going into fight mode. We are going to be launching our Fight for Families campaign, our 50th anniversary tonight. You will see on this slide that we are looking to raise $1 million to really seed our legislative and public policy work. We want to make sure that we're protecting access to IVF and that we are removing barriers to all family building options. Wow, that sounds like a big goal. And I hope and I'm confident that, that you all will help this ripple effect that Barbara Eck has started. So how are you going to do that? How can you help? Right now, you can be a part of our future by doing a couple of things. We have 2 ways that you can help support Resolve and launch this amazing 50th anniversary. We have something called a tribute wall, and we are going to send you a link to this tribute wall. The very cool thing about this is you get to tell a little story, you get to post a photo, and my husband and I are so honored to be able to offer a matching donation, and we're going to match donations up to $20,000 on our tribute wall. And we can't wait to see all of your faces on that tribute wall. The second way that you can help, which is so exciting, is you can create what's called a fundraising page. And guess what? Use your superpower, tell your story, and tell those around you what Resolve has meant to you. And your friends and your family can donate to Resolve in your honor. And it's an opportunity for you to tell the world your truth and to speak and advocate and educate others while also helping Resolve. So we already have people who've done this, who've started this, and it's not that hard at all. In fact, I'm told that it only took them about 10 minutes to set up that fundraising page. Actually, the hardest part was determining which photos they were going to post and what part of their story they were going to share. But we know you are going to do amazing, and we are so excited to see where this goes. Everyone on this call will get an email from us with links to both that tribute wall and a way to start that fundraising page. And we just want to blow this up. We want the whole world to know. And we know there are so many people who've publicly shared their story. They might be celebrities, they might be politicians, they might be, I don't know, musicians. Wouldn't it be amazing if the whole world was talking about this Fight for Families campaign and our goals? So I know you can do it. I know you can really create that ripple effect. And who knows, you're going to reach people who might never have heard of Resolve and are like me, was so honored and so grateful to have found Resolve. So I am going to bring forward my colleague, Rebecca Flick, and she is the queen of multitasking. And so Rebecca is going to help facilitate any questions. So Barbara Eck, I would love for you to come off camera. And Rebecca, come on. Are you there, Rebecca?
I am here. I'm going to keep my camera off. I did not bring my tissues. I'm now like a little sweaty from the texting and the chatting and
okay. Well, I had a big old tear that like
I know.
I got to blow my nose.
Yeah.
So, here's what we'd love for you to do. Rebecca's going to monitor the chat.
Yep.
Throw a
I-
question.
I got some.
in
I
the
got some. We're ready. We are ready. I want to get to these before they get buried.
Okay,
All right.
fire away.
First one comes from Liz. You navigated a lot as a founder of this organization. What was one of the most difficult things you overcame during the early years of Resolve?
Wow. Well, just that nobody considered it to be a problem. Nobody knew anything about it. I often tell a story. I went to a funding source because funding was always a problem from the very beginning. And this was an agency that spent a great deal of money on family planning. And I walked in and I introduced myself and I said, I'm from Resolve. And I told them about our mission. And she looked at me and she said, well, Barbara, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're a 1. And that, could have been the end of our conversation. But I said back to her, maybe it's a 1 until it happens to you.
You used that line. Oh my gosh.
And that's really true. If it doesn't hit you or someone close to you who you love, you really don't understand about infertility. And so we need to keep educating the public that 10% of childbearing couples are having this problem, maybe even more. We don't really know how many. We don't have accurate statistics.
Yeah, you're right.
And you know what? That has not changed. 50 years later, we still do not have accurate statistics on this. For all of you listening who advocate, you're like, go Barb, because it's frustrating when you advocate and the data is not really that complete. All right, Rebecca.
All right. I'm just going to say a hello from a couple people. You might recognize Leslie. Is it Nice?
Leslie Neese.
Sorry, from the Serrano Symposia. She's here. Diane Aronson is here. Dr. David Adamson is here.
David Adamson.
Maria Bastillo.
Oh my gosh.
So
Maria.
there's a wonderful reunion happening. I am scrolling through lots of "You Are a Hero," thank you. Here's a question. It's from.
But let me ask Barbara Eck. You worked with Diane Aronson for a long time, right?
No, Diane came after me.
Diane came after you, right? But Diane, okay.
Yeah.
With Diane Clapp.
One of the baton passers, correct?
Yes, one of the baton, and yes, there you go. I love that. All right.
All right, we have a question from Emily. She's on the West Coast, and she hosts a Walk of Hope in San Diego, and they want to know what they can do to bring more awareness on the West Coast. So I'm wondering if, I'm paraphrasing here for Emily, but perhaps they're feeling a little isolated and kind of like they're at their kitchen table out there on the West Coast, maybe far away from DC and where things are happening. But what ideas can we lend Emily?
I'm gonna let the founder see what advice she would have.
Well, the West Coast, you've got all those movie stars out there. You've got celebrities who have had problems with infertility. Maybe it takes something as outrageous as that to get people's attention. And then they are often willing to tell their stories. At something I attended way back in the early days of Resolve, I can't remember his name now, but he did Roots. He was the male lead in Roots, and he and his wife sat at my table, and it turned out that they were experiencing infertility. And anyway, so I don't know. I've been away from the field for a long time.
I'm hoping people are putting things in the chat for Emily to think about. But at Resolve, we have a lot of creative ideas, and we would love to connect.
All right. I also have a hello from Carol Langer.
Oh,
a longtime
Carol.
supporter of Resolve
And board member.
and board member. All right, Allison Barkin, a good friend of ours as well. Barb, Collura, this is probably a question for you. Can you share some specifics about what the $1 million is funding?
Yeah, so we have had for many years, we have worked to protect IVF, and we've done that in what Betsy Campbell and I lovingly call the whack-a-mole method, which means good thing Barbara Ack didn't just spit her coffee out, because I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna be like, what did she say? And this is really a bad bill pops up, we do everything we can to whack it, and then we leave. And another one comes up and we do everything we can to whack it down and we leave. And Alabama really showed us that that we need a different strategy. And we need something that's going to protect IVF 365 days a year, even if there isn't a particular bill that looks bad. Because here's the sad truth. There are many states that have the potential to be another Alabama. They have the potential to maybe even introduce legislation that's harmful to the practice of IVF. We know this because we already hear about it. And so, Rebecca, we are extremely concerned about that. And we also need to think differently as a community, and we need to be on the ground all year long in these states working to ensure that nothing bad happens. And the whack-a-mole method is not going to cut it when we have 2 or 3 or 4 states doing this at the same time. So we're taking a page from a lot of other organizations that have been fighting for a particular issue year in and year out. And here's the truth. The people who want to regulate IVF, who want to take away your rights of your embryos, they're not going away. And they have been very patient when it came to abortion. They've been very patient when it comes to other ways to restrict reproductive rights in our country. And yet we are not. We've been flighty and in and out. And I'm talking about Resolve. I'm not talking about anybody on this call. So what we did is we said, what do we need to do as an organization? And what we need to do as an organization is we need to have a presence in many states year in and year out. And that takes money. So the good news is we partnered with a company with a firm, that does this for many amazing nonprofits. And we are going to work side by side with them. So that funding is going to go directly towards our ability to staff up and to train volunteers and to do what we need to do in a number of states. So if you are listening and you're thinking, wow, I like that. That sounds a lot better than whack-a-mole. We want you to help us get there. It's going to take, our campaign is $1 million. That's just to seed this and get us started. So it's going to take sustained funding over many years, but this is what we need to do. Who else is going to do it? No one. And I can't risk anybody in this country being restricted from building their family. And that is what keeps us up at night. And that is what is motivating us. So we are clear on our mission. We are clear on our goal. We know what we need to do. Quite honestly, the only thing stopping us is money. And a lot of people say, well, that's easy to solve. So let's solve it.
All right. You touched on this a little bit, but what else can we do in addition to this campaign? And that's from Belle. And Belle, I appreciate you adding in addition to this campaign. I think Barbie talked about it. We need to have a presence. Advocacy is no longer a day or an action alert at Resolve. It's year round. And even if you live in a state with a mandate or good insurance policies or work for an employer, there's still things that we can be doing.
I am so inspired by Barbara, and we didn't plan this out. You said some things like speak your truth. And you also said that, and I'm so inspired by those people. I can't even imagine in the late 1970s showing up to some government hearing on something called the IVF and talking about their personal story. I want everyone listening to be like, holy crap, I could be a person who tells a story that inspires somebody to give $1 million to Resolve. You could be somebody who inspires somebody to change a law in a positive way in a state. So do not underestimate the power, your superpower, which is your story. Right, Barbara?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Nothing beats a testimonial from a person who's having the problem. And I used to say people get very nervous doing media work, and I do too, I should say. And I always, the last thing I think about before I advocate for whatever group I'm advocating for is I think this is not about me. This is about getting the word out to others. And so if I have to say some personal things and reveal some details of my personal life, I will do that. Mhm.
Well, someone says, Kristen here says, if I knew as much about Barbara as I know about her now, my IVF baby might have a different name. So, all right, Barbara Eck, what do you hope to see for the next 50 years of Resolve?
Wow. Well, I'm afraid I won't be around to celebrate that birthday. But oh gosh, the sky's the limit. We couldn't have imagined 50 years ago where we are today. Um, and it was one of my biggest fears was that Resolve would just die one day and fizzle out. Lack of funding, lack of support. I don't know. And it never happened. And I am just so delighted that we've gone 50 years. And I think we've never been stronger than we are today. And that's a good amount of that credit goes to you, Barb, and your wonderful leadership. So many staff and volunteers have done good work over the years, and I know it will continue. There is a good possibility that infertility will increase over the years with environmental pollutions and one thing and another going on in this country, climate change. It's very interesting, but I think it will only increase as a problem over these years. And we have to be there. We have to be there to help people.
First of all, I appreciate the gratitude, I really do, but I am only here because of amazing volunteers and an incredible staff over the years, and that I've been so blessed to be able to work with a wonderful husband and family that have supported me for sure. I want to also just say that many nonprofits, their job is to go out of business, and so while I love looking at the next 50 years, wouldn't it be amazing if we didn't actually need a Resolve, meaning everybody had insurance, everybody had the ability to build their family, everybody had emotional support. This wasn't stigmatized or kept secret, and people felt really supported in their ability to build their family. And that's a world that I would love to see happen. And we will be here Resolve will be here as long as it needs to be. Barbara, you were at Resolve at a moment of time. I'm at Resolve at a moment of time. People will come after me. People came after you. And my hope is that that they will hearken back to your vision of when you started this organization. I have to ask you though, we oftentimes at Resolve over the years, people have said, hey, Barb, what's new at Resolve? What's new? What's exciting? What's going on? And oftentimes, Barbara, I would say to myself, the struggles that people felt in 1974 when you started this organization, they're still feeling today.
Yes. Yes, they are.
That's not new or sexy, but that's the job. That's the job.
Yeah, it's just a new generation. Each new generation comes along and has many of the same problems. It's true. And as we know, it's a heartbreak when you have your heart set on building a family or having a family and it doesn't happen naturally. As I said, it was one of the hardest things I ever went through. And I was lucky or smart enough to find my own counseling help and do my own education. Not everyone can do that. And so it has to continue. It will always be a problem as long as there are human beings on this earth.
Rebecca, I don't know where else we can go with that, but if you've got any other comments or questions, otherwise, let me know.
Well, people are fired up, ready to help meet this goal, make things happen. We've reconnected with a gentleman from California. His name is Bob, and I know, like we shared your story among the staff, and you got support from Resolve a long time ago, and he just shared that he shared a letter, or reached out to his Governor Newsom in California, and asked him to sign our insurance IVF mandate. And I just think that proves that there's always a time to be an advocate, whether you're in the middle of this or in the midst of this, or if you had a child or resolved child free 20, 30 years ago. There's a place for you in this community, and we welcome it. I'm just looking, any specific questions? Our friend Julie Eshelman asked about any advice to like new advocates. So if like you're new to Resolve and not really done our advocacy work, is there any advice either of you give to a new advocate about sharing their story and feeling vulnerable?
I'm gonna, again, back to our founder.
Well, you tell your story because you want to help others. You want to shine a light on a problem that doesn't get enough attention. And it takes courage. It takes courage, and we understand that. Infertility is personal, let's face it. But if you don't tell your story and it doesn't get out there what the problem is and all the obstacles that exist towards, first of all, becoming pregnant and then family building, the world will never know and things won't change. So you do it because you want to change the situation. You want to help others. And if you get your head into that space, it's not so hard to share your personal story.
With that, that's an amazing bit of advice, Julie. Thank you for asking. And with that, we're going to end tonight. I just want to thank you, Barbara, for starting Resolve, for taking your own pain, turning it into purpose, as we say, but to just having the wisdom and the courage to do what you did. And thank you for all of those support groups that you ran. And thank you for all the work you've done in your communities, both in Massachusetts and in North Carolina. Since you left Resolve, you just continue to give back. And you're an amazing human being. And we are so honored to have you as part of our history, our own founder. And I just want to let people know we have our highest award that we give at our Night of Hope Gala is the Barbara Eck Founders Award. And it's many people who I heard on this call have received that. And now you know why. Now you know why we have the Barbara Eck Founders Award, and what we're holding you up to with this amazing woman. Thank you, all of you who are on tonight. Thank you for your excitement for this campaign, for Fight for Families. Let's do this. Let's make a difference, and let's see where this takes us as an organization. I want to thank the staff. I want to thank our board, and Barbara, thank you.
Thank you. I am so proud to be the founder of this organization. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.